Indigenous journalists across this province are eager to cover the stories of their communities and beyond, but there are challenges inherent to capturing the big picture. Shelby Lisk is our Ontario Hub's journalist covering Indigenous issues, and she joins us now from Ottawa on her recent series of articles looking into that. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jan.
So, your recent series looked at how you participated in this Indigenous-led training program that you took part in March. What can you tell us about that, and why did you find it so valuable?
So the program is called the Indigenous 150 Plus program, and it's a podcast and leadership training program for youth up to the ages of 28. So that's me, and I just squeaked in there. And it was created by Joanne Fishburne of Good Influence Films. So it grew out of a film and conversation series that she was running, where they would bring important Indigenous films to communities, and then afterwards they would have these moderated Q&As, and they really wanted youth to be leading those discussions, but they wanted to set youth for success. So they created this program so they could teach them those skills to moderate. So, interviewing skills, for example.
So, the question is, you're a working journalist. Why did you feel like you needed to get involved in a program like this?
Yeah, so I think that was Joanne's big question too when I applied and I was talking to her about it. I'm a working journalist and I've learned a lot of those technical skills, but what was really missing from my journalism education was, conversations around how to work with Indigenous communities in respectful ways. And I really just wanted a space where I could talk to other people who really cared about that and learn as much as I could from them as well.
Now, in this program, you, of course, were working on putting together a podcast at the end of it. But what I found interesting was in this program, it's not just Indigenous participants, it's also non-Indigenous participants. What was that conversation like?
Yeah, so we had participants from all across Canada. So there were people from, New Brunswick to BC up to Nunavut. And so we really all brought different experiences and backgrounds to the conversations. And so everybody was very respectful of each other, and it felt like a really safe space to ask questions, and there was no stupid question, and we were all just very honest with one another. And so we were able to talk about serious issues like systemic racism, but then we also were able to have these conversations that I don't think Indigenous and non-Indigenous people have, like we talked about, should non-Indigenous people be learning Indigenous languages?
Right.
And, how do you get a name in your culture? How do you introduce yourself in your language? So, I was even really able to learn from all the people across Canada in places I've never been to before.
Very interesting. Now, for this series, you also interviewed a few Indigenous media professionals about their experiences. What were some of the common threads and themes from those discussions?
So I think the two most common themes in the conversations that I had was about representation and about responsibility. So the conversation around representation was really about, what stereotypes and dehumanizing language and imagery do we still see in Indigenous stories in media? And, the journalist that I interviewed, she shared a story with me that just really stuck with me. And she was saying when she was studying journalism at Humber in Toronto, she remembers there was a conflict going on back near her home community, which is Six Nations in Caledonia. So not too dissimilar from what is actually currently happening right now. And she said she was listening to the news about it, and, they kept talking about the dispute as the people versus the natives. Mm-hmm. And so, she's sitting there with her peers and they're all learning in journalism school about how important language is and the words that you choose. And they're sitting there and saying like, oh, well, I guess, Kelly, you're not a person by this definition. And so those are the kinds of things that we're telling Canadians. But, even what I think is even more sad is those are also the kinds of things that we're feeding, Indigenous youth about how they're valued in this country.
Right. Now, one of the other conversations you had was with a historian, and she explained kind of the historical reasons for way newsrooms deal with Indigenous issues. Can you share some of her insight?
Yeah, so that was Carmen Robertson, and she shared with me, that newspapers really got their start more so in Europe and in the United States before coming to Canada. But when newspapers were opened here, they were usually opened by settlers who came from those countries and those regions. And so when they came over, they sort of came already with these ideas about objectivity in journalism, which we now know, to be skewed. And they also already came with these prejudices and, racist ideas about people of color or people who look different from them. And so because these ideas were already so entrenched in their mind, it obviously translated into the media, into the journalism that they were creating. And then that sort of creates this feedback loop, where your opinion is just being solidified by the media. And that's sort of been this feedback loop that's been going on for, over 150 years now.
This is a very, very interesting thought there. In one of your interviews, you spoke to Megan Fowler of Journalism for Human Rights and talked about the importance of newsroom training. Of course, we've, across Canada, newsrooms receive training, but for people who are not familiar with what that looks like, can you explain what that looks like and what some of the takeaways Megan Fowler explained?
Yeah, so she said that when JHR, they'll go into a newsroom, or sometimes they'll also go into schools, journalism schools, and talk to students. And, they always start by going over, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Report, and going over those calls to action and, specifically what media's role is within those. And then they will usually go into a little bit of history about the Indigenous communities that are around, where they're giving the presentation. Mm-hmm. And they'll talk a little bit about terminology and, harmful stereotypes, and look at stories and sort of discuss them, amongst the group, what could be harmful in this and what is good about it.
She did say that it was kind of a relief for Indigenous journalists as well. Talk about that, kind of the burden as well, for Indigenous journalists being in that newsroom, sometimes being the only voice.
Yeah, so she did really stress to me that, part of the reason why JHR does this is to sort of relieve that burden from Indigenous journalists, so that we can enter the newsroom and feel like we can tell stories about what we care about, and, we can do our job without also having to be, the Indigenous expert on the side. But she also really stressed to me as well that, many newsrooms or schools might think, we've done this training and now we can check it off the list. But she really doesn't want people to think that when JHR comes in. She wants them to know that this is one step in a journey, that in a learning process.
You also spoke to a working journalist, and you got quite personal in that Q&A. And I imagine it was kind of a unique experience for you as an Indigenous journalist interviewing a fellow Indigenous journalist. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm really lucky in my job because I mostly get to interview Indigenous people, which is really nice. And there's always that, that sort of everyone relaxes when we have that something in common. And so it was even more like that when interviewing an Indigenous journalist. And, it really helps to feel like you're not alone. And so I left a lot of the back and forth in our Q&A, which I maybe usually wouldn't do, because I really wanted people to see that, this isn't just this one journalist experience. This is a very common experience, and this is happening to a lot of us. So there was lots of things that we shared in common. And, one thing that we talked about for a while is that, we're both Mohawk. We're both from Mohawk communities in Ontario. So she's from Six Nations and I'm from Tyendinaga. And so both of our communities have been in the news this year quite a bit. And we both talked about our hesitation and our fear and the responsibility of reporting in our own communities, and how that kind of stopped us, from reporting on those things.
My last question to you is, after the work you did on this series, what's the main message you hope media organizations take away?
Yeah, so I think that, we all kind of recognize now that we need more Indigenous voices in media, but I think that we also have to look at we need Indigenous people in all levels of media organizations. So in decision-making roles as well, in editor positions, producer positions, CEO positions. So we can really see that structure change. And I ended my essay with a quote from Jesse Wente when he was talking about diversity in the newsroom. And he said, just being in the newsroom doesn't cut it. What we need is the walls of that newsroom to come down so the room doesn't even exist anymore. So what I get from that is that he's really talking about an entire restructuring. And I think that that's what we need to see happen.
Shelby, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. That's Shelby Lisk, our Ontario Hub journalist covering Indigenous issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.